Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our last installment of our relationship series chat. Today, I'm so excited to talk to two of our partners, John and Leslie McNeill. Today, we're going to talk about longevity in marriage. We're going to talk about having adult children, and we're also going to talk about relationships in the workplace. I'm so excited today to talk to you. How are you?
Doing good.
Doing good?
Glad to be here.
Wow. So I know it's over 20 years. How long have you been married?
This year will be 26 years.
Oh my God, 26 years. Wow, 26 years. And I know, especially for your generation, that might not seem like a long time, but especially for those like in my generation, we're not really accustomed to seeing marriages that are making it over 10 years, let alone 20. So I'm just so excited about this chat. Can you take us back to how you two met?
Well, really, we met in, I guess, elementary school.
Oh my God.
Like first, second grade. But I don't think we recognized each other until 19, 20 years of age. But we known each other pretty much all our lives. Grew up in the same church, but we still didn't. You know how you get to know somebody? So we just knew, I knew her, but I didn't see her as a life partner.
Right.
At that time. Things just kind of happened.
Yeah. Wow. So it's kind of interesting to just kind of see how, like God is ordaining our steps. And sometimes we cross paths with people, that we're going to marry. I know many times singles are like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to meet the person or where is he or where is she? But looking at your story, it's like all along you two knew each other.
A lot of times you already done cross paths with your mate.
Yeah.
You just didn't know.
Yeah.
Because like we used to be in church. I remember being in church and crossing my fingers at her. Like she had the little germ.
Those
cooties. We'll pass it around church, But us, we was kids, just didn't know no better.
Yeah. And so although it's been 26 years of marriage, when you add that like additional, 10 to 15 years that you guys knew each other, we're talking about like 35 years or so that you guys have known each other. Oh my God.
Well, we dated for about, 7?
Yeah.
About 7 before we got married.
Wow. Yeah. This is great. And so you said it was about 19 or 20. So were you in college at the time, or where were you when you were kind of like, okay, I know we know each other. We're kind of friends. We're past that cootie stage where boys don't like girls. But I think I like you more than a friend.
Yeah, well, it was my second year in college. I came home and he was feeding the cows or something, right? Horses?
I was coming from school.
Okay. And he was beside the road in your truck. And unfortunately, it was a physical thing at first, but I saw his bow legs, which I always knew he had bow legs. I was like, he really got some pretty bow legs. And so from that, he didn't know I liked him, but I would ask my cousin to take me over to his house. And so from that, it just happened from there.
Yeah.
No, she did try to play a little hard to get to. It's like, we're going to do this thing, but all of a sudden, she running from me.
Oh, I got
like,
you.
Okay.
So you weren't taking his phone calls right away. You act like you didn't know.
Yeah. Like I had something now. So I was like, okay, we're gonna play that game. So I kind of like put everything in reverse and went the other way.
And then that's when I saw that he wasn't gonna pay me any attention. Then I was like, okay, yeah, I think I really like that. And the good thing about it, we were friends first. And looking back, I'm thankful to God that we were friends first and that I did know him, because that makes a difference in a marriage.
Absolutely.
But to think that we would be married, no. Both of us would have never thought that we would be married. So that's why we know that purpose is behind marriage, because what God puts together is not just a marriage of we feeling, it's a marriage of ministry.
Absolutely.
And that's what we've learned, as we became Christians into the marriage.
Yeah.
That it's a ministry, so therefore whatever gifts and talents he has and whatever gifts and talents I have, we should use those gifts and talents together and to help support each other. Me being his wife, I'm his helpmate, so therefore I'm to help meet the needs that he has for the call that God has on his life.
I help you too.
Yes, you do. And that's the beauty of it. I thank God for that he does support me too. But by me being his wife, I feel that because God made me as his helpmate, I'm going to help him. That's my priority, is to make sure that what God has taught him to do, that I help him.
Yeah. And it's just so beautiful to hear this and to even just like see and hear how you two complement each other. And so I know that you two have children. How old are they?
They'll be 21 and 23.
Wow.
This year, they'll be 21.
This year.
Most of the stuff that I read about children, I have, children that are young, is geared to having young children. I don't see a whole lot about, essentially raising adult children. So can you tell us what are the rewards and even the challenges of having children in that young adult age range?
Well, the thing about it is, at this age, when they're young, you have to be consistent and putting the value that you have in your children. I mean, consistent, even when it don't seem like it's fair, and in their minds, and other kids, they doing other things, but you got to still be consistent, because the thing about it is the reward is watching those values come to fruition, watching that fruit bear.
Yeah.
When they get in their teenage years, then they start making a decision based on the values that you instill on.
That's good.
Now, the part B to that question is peer pressure. Fighting the peer pressure from kids who come from less structured environments. So it seems that those kids, free willing, they get to do, go, come when they want to. What I try to tell our kids that, well, there's consequences behind it.
That's good.
So you have to be careful. You have to still stay the course, which, in their mind, well, Zana's kids, they get with that. We're not Zana's kids. So we just got to stay where we go in our lane.
Yeah.
They're doing their thing. Now we just have to stay over here. Hopefully the values that we put on you, if those kids can see the reward that you're getting from staying the course, they might say, okay, you might be an influence on them instead of them being a negative influence on you.
Wow, that's good. It's really good to hear that. And it gives me encouragement. I'm sure many parents who are watching this that, we may not get it right. We may not get it perfect, but we can, give our children a solid foundation so that when they do become young adults, they can, they have the tools to make good decisions.
Right. And that's the thing too, you gotta, ain't nobody perfect.
Right.
Our walk with our kids wasn't a perfect walk. We made mistakes, along the way, but then thank God those mistakes wasn't a mistake that wasn't irreversible.
Right.
We can correct. It was correctable. I guess what I'm trying to say, the mistake. So, we all fall short. Ain't nobody perfect. And the thing about it is also, we try the mistakes that we made, that I made as coming up as a teenager, and some in my early adult life, where I shared those experiences, with them, so that they won't do the exact same thing that I did. Okay, even when you see your kid trying to do a thing, well, I've already been down that road,
That's good.
and this way it's gonna lead you. So you don't want to go that way. So you try to guide them based on the experiences you have and based on the experience that you saw other people go through, so they won't make the same mistake. They're gonna make mistakes. We all gotta have a story.
That's right. Yeah.
So, but at some point in time, you can't control the lane that they choose. Right. So you can't control their story.
That's right.
So they're gonna have to tell their kids the same thing that we're telling them.
Yeah, that's good. That is so good. Just to hear that and also thinking like, I never want to get in the way of what God may need to do with my children. So it's really good to hear that. The good and the bad, and then what they need to learn. So, wow, this is just such great advice. In your 26 years of marriage, what would you say you've learned about marriage and love?
As far as marriage, it takes two. And like you said, nobody's perfect. So you're going to have those struggles. But the thing about it is you have to have communication so that when you have the struggles, that you're able to communicate whatever it is that needs to be done in order to get through it. So a lot of people think that marriage is the ooey feelings of this and this and that, but no, because there's going to come a time where you may not have those feelings. And to speak on love, love is not a feeling anyway. It's a commitment, and it's a committed decision that you make to someone. Right. So if you look at love from that perspective, you'll be able to communicate those things that you struggle in, and you'll have a healthier marriage. One thing that one tool we use in our marriage is the book by Dr. Gary Chapman, the 5 Love Languages.
Oh, yes.
And those 5 love languages are physical touch, acts of service, words of affirmation, giving gifts, and quality time. Mm-hmm. So what we do in our marriage is we try to figure out, okay, what are his love languages? What are mine? His dominant one is words of affirmation, mm-hmm. and mine is quality time. So we try to give that to one another. Right. And what we see in some couples that they struggle with is that they end up giving, they don't give the spouse their love language, they give the spouse their love language, and then it doesn't work. So if you base marriage on just a feeling of love, it will struggle because those love languages aren't based on feelings. Yeah. Those love languages are based on an action of a commitment to the spouse.
Wow, that's good. Oh my goodness. I know I keep saying that that's good, but I mean, this is great. Just such great wisdom from you two. And I know I keep starting stuff off within those 26 years because I think it's really important for people to hear that, you are enduring. So in those 26 years so far, what have you learned about each other?
Learned a lot. I mean, people change, mm-hmm. but you grow. Yeah. And you evolve. And I think the thing about being in a relationship is one, just have patience. Yeah. And be, just have a compassionate and also be a compassionate heart and be willing to compromise. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times when you get in yourself, you want and you want to dictate every little thing. Some things is worth an argument, but a lot of things ain't. Right. So I see some people when they say, man, me and my wife, this, that, and the other, we had this over the pettiest little thing. I was like, are you serious?
Somebody left dirty dishes in the sink or clothes on the floor.
Yeah. But so I think sometimes you just have to compromise. Like my wife, she might want to do stuff that I know I don't want to do, but if it's not gonna hurt me,
that's good.
Let's go. I do it. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'll say no, mm-hmm. but most of the time, if I ain't doing nothing else, I don't want to go. But okay, if that's gonna make you happy, this is the conversation that I have within myself. Yeah. Not open. Yeah. Okay, we do it. Because it's meaningless. We kind of like fight every little situation. Don't have to be a problem.
Yeah, right. That's right.
Mm-hmm. And so I know, marriage and parenthood, they're not the only relationships that we'll find ourselves in. And, not everyone's going to be married or have kids. There's still just hundreds, well, I shouldn't say hundreds, but many other relationships that we find ourselves in. And one place where we have to deal with relationships is the workplace. Mm-hmm. And I know that you have experience in dealing with workplace relationships and workplace coaching. And so I just want to spend some time talking about those workplace relationships. Let me start off by asking, how do we keep the centrality of Christ in our workplace relationships and experience? How should we be as Christians on the workplace?
Mm-hmm. What I find is that a lot of people don't look at the principles of how to deal with different situations that happen in the workplace. So what I have encountered is since there are a lot of religions in the workplace, we can't go at the approach of quote scriptures and all that because God didn't say that. He said you would know his children by the fruit they bear. So because of that, we're technically the only Bible that some people read. So when we're in the workplace, if you say you're a Christian, people are watching you. So everything that you do, everything that you say, even where you go, they're watching. So I consciously try to make a point to make sure that I'm trying to respond the way that Jesus would. and I'm trying to, not make my name be spoken evil of, and I'm trying to treat them the way that I want to be treated. So there's a way to represent him in the workplace, but it takes intentional effort. But you cannot go at them with any type of tactic, because that won't work.
Yeah, and I know in some workplaces it's prevented. You're not even allowed to
That's right.
Discuss religion.
Right.
But I think it's beautiful how you're saying it's like, we can definitely act like Christ. And who knows, that might draw somebody to us. Yes. We might be sitting with somebody on a lunch break, sharing what we did this weekend, and they, we can talk about, well, I went to this church, or, actually, I spent time praying. And so there's ways to find, gateways to sharing Christ without having to, essentially break any company rules or corporate laws or however you want to explain it. I know that also on the workplace, we have to deal with conflict. And unfortunately, conflict, it doesn't just affect us personally, but it affects the company. I was reading something that said interpersonal conflict lowers workplace productivity. So if we're not getting along with our peers, we're not necessarily meeting business goals. Profits may be down and all that kind of stuff. But how can we professionally settle differences with our supervisors or even our bosses when we have issues with them?
I mean, I've had confrontational supervisors based on. Sometimes it's not their fault. Sometimes it's the person above them. It's like a trickle down thing. But sometimes, when you're trying to do a task and IE says, or if the engineer says it's supposed to be done this way, and it numbers people, sometimes the people in the trenches know that those things don't work. But what I found, without confrontation, even though I'm being in a hostile conversation with my manager, well, instead of fighting back, whatever I have to say, I form it in a question. How, and let them tell me whatever I'm thinking. I form it in a question and let them tell me how the way I'm thinking is wrong. So now that way you hear what I'm saying. Now you get a chance to address why I'm not saying giving out good information. So time will tell. Now whether my situation, whether my view on whatever that situation was is good or not, time will tell. Because if you IE, your thing ain't working. Sooner or later, you're gonna have to scratch your head and say, okay, we might need to try it this way. Okay, you can have the credit. I'm gonna take credit. We just need to get the job done in a timely manner. But everybody wins. But like I said, I think just don't go in, argue back and forth. Cause like my supervisor, he loves an argument. He wants you to confront him. Come back at me. Let's fight. And you don't give him that. Just okay.
And I think that's really good. And even in ways is acting like Christ by, just not operating in pride. So that's really good.
And another thing to add to that, because you do run into a lot of prideful managers, since we are supposed to obey authority as if they're Jesus, then looking at it from that perspective, whatever they ask you, you have to look at it as, okay, God is not going to put more on you. So whatever they're asking you to do, it's a test. So whenever they ask you to do something, you look at it as, okay, I'm doing this as unto the Lord. So therefore, as long as it's not unethical or immoral, you'll do it, knowing that, okay, promotion comes from God. It comes from God through man. So that very supervisor could be the one that gives you your promotion. But if you don't work the principle of overcoming evil with good and obeying authority as if they're Jesus, then you do yourself a disservice by not getting the promotion because you're not responding the way Jesus tells you to. But what I'm finding is a lot of people don't know that principle. So because of that, they end up taking that same test over and over again. Or either they leave. But the thing is, even if you don't take the test here, if you go to another job, if you haven't passed that test, you're going to take it again.
Wow, that's good.
So what God is trying to do is build our character. So whatever he has to do and whomever he chooses to use, that's what he'll do. And until we recognize that, we're going to keep just going through those tests over and over and over. But yeah, so it's all a game. Yeah. And unfortunately, in the spirit realm, we win every time because the battle has already been won. Yeah. But nobody wants to feel like you've been taken advantage of. But the thing is, as a child of God, you're never being taken advantage of. And as long as you can have that in your mind when you go through the situation, you'll come out okay.
I mean, oh my God, like that's, I mean, just amazing. And just so many of the points that you two were sharing about that. And, you know, one thing I thought about was seeing our work as worship. Yes, and, you know, it's unto the Lord. Yes. And it is so true that it's a test. Yes. And we can run away from certain places of employment, but we're always going to hit that same test. Yes. There's always going to be supervisors that, you know, we may not see eye to eye with. We're always going to have to deal with our pride. Wow, that's good.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff is you, it's not them.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And also, you know, God does tell us too that even if we're in authority, we have to serve. So the best leaders serve. Yeah. But if that's not a conviction of our supervisor, they don't know that. So like he said earlier, we have to show them what it is as to how we want them to treat us.
And I'm really glad that you brought up that point because, you know, I don't want to assume that everyone who's watching this is an employee. There are many people who will be watching this who are CEOs or who are supervisors or, you know, high up in management. So, I mean, that was just such a great thing to say, you know, that no matter our position, we need to be emulating Christ.
Yes, so, because they're accountable to Christ just like we are.
Wow, that's good. Yeah. And so, you know, we were able to talk about supervisors. The other part about the workplace that can be hard is teams, you know, having to work on teams. And sometimes our teammates or coworkers can be difficult to work with. So what are some strategies for dealing with difficult coworkers?
Well, first of all, once again, we got to treat people the way we want to be treated. So what I do is I first assess myself to make sure that conflict is not something that I'm attributing to. And if it's not, I will go to the person and by saying go to the person, we expose in private and we reward in the open. So nobody wants to be embarrassed. So whether it's in a meeting or on a team, whatever, you don't expose in public because they don't hear you. Wow, that's good. It's not that what you're saying isn't good or what you're saying isn't true. It's just that they don't hear you. So when you take them aside and try to, you know, ask them then, okay, what the issue is and, you know, how you can resolve it, you get better results because you now are on one-on-one, you're respecting each other and it normally works out. But what I find is because of pride and because of people not wanting to be wrong, they will just in a team meeting or team whatever, if they feel like they're right and they feel like what they have to say is important at that moment, they don't think about the how and the when because it's not what we say, it's how and when we say
that's
it.
True.
And as long as we can think of that in the process of the conflict, then it'll go right. But like we said earlier, when you go through conflicts with people, it's their tests. And that's a character builder, another character builder. So whatever we go through in our workplaces as Christ ambassadors, pretty much, they're all tests.
I think we come from entitlement and we want to be right. You know, we want our point to be. We always want to win.
Yeah.
And so I think when you're in teams, it's not in teams. So you got to kind of work together, share each other's views and let everybody be heard. And then whatever opinion or whatever plan is the best, that's where we go. It shouldn't be, well, I just want my idea to go. You got a good idea, but it ain't going to work in this situation.
That's okay.
Wow. Yeah. This is just great. Like, it's just amazing. And, you know, as we're getting ready to close, you know, I just want to thank you for the wisdom you have shared from your marriage to your children to the workplace. And, I'm just thinking about the people who are watching this right now who are going to be blessed by this and even challenged in some areas, especially as it relates to the workplace. A final question that I have is, and it can be from any sphere of relationships. Mm-hmm. If you could pick one piece of relationship advice to give to people, what would it be?
For marriage, I would say, stop making mountains out of molehills. Mm-hmm. Because, our walk hadn't been perfect, but at the same time, I love her enough to deal, and to listen and to compromise, so that we don't have a big blown up situation over nothing. Because I think that's where a lot of people divorce over nothing, over simple old stuff that could have been avoided. Yeah. But we make it so big, and we let little stuff fester into little big problems. But now we fighting each other, and it all stems from I didn't take the trash out. Or something, there's something that didn't really matter. Well, here we are in court over something that don't even, but the root of is something so
trivial.
Selfish.
Yeah. And
selfish.
That's
selfish.
Good.
Yeah, just selfish.
Yeah. That's where that pride comes into place again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I would say take self out of the relationship and put the other one first. Mm-hmm. And then everything will be, you'd be a whole lot, your marriage would be a whole lot more happier if both of you took yourself out and implemented your partner.
Good. And as far as workplace, when you go to work, just have in your mind that you're doing it as unto the Lord. And if you have that in the forefront, whatever they ask you to do, you know that God is in control of everything and everybody. He turns the heart of the king. So because of that, whatever you go through is all part of the plan for the purpose that he has for you.
That's good. That's good. And I know you are a coach and you do specific work with the workplace. Where can people go who need more help for workplace, whether it be coaching or some of the issues that they might be having with their supervisors or their peers?
My website is lesliemcneillcoaching.com.
Wow. Thank you. Well, I just want to thank you two for today. And once again, I just keep thinking about all the people who are going to be blessed by this chat. So, and I hope one day we can do it again.
All right.